Aloha! What's up, everyone? And happy October, Halloween month, etc. So, hey, check this out. All month long, we're going to be doing movies that are horror, scary affiliated, just because I like Halloween so much. And which better one, since I love the plasma apocalypse so much, to start off with than Color Out of Space. What's up to everybody in the chat? Hope you guys are doing good today. Good vibes to everyone. So The Color Out of Space was actually a little novelette that was written by H.P. Lovecraft. He's also the one that came up with Cthulhu. So if you've seen my video on Cthulhu, the tentacle, god, sleeping god being or whatever that wakes up occasionally to let his tentacles be shown, that's the plasma apocalypse, which is what we're talking about. Now check this out. What's up, Jesse Erickson in the chat? I see everybody. So check this out. The Color Out of Space is essentially like I feel like many movies are. This one definitely is the events of the plasma apocalypse symbolically as seen through the eyes of one particular family. So I want to check this out. I want to go into this because I reference this movie a lot. The reason is it's got so much good stuff. Let's jump into it and see where we start off. It's got Tommy Chong in it, which is pretty cool. He plays a pretty cool part in the movie. So this movie starts off and they show you the forest, right? They're talking about this magical forest where the trees are never cut down, where there's these legends of witches and old wives' tales and myths and legends and stuff like that. Now, they say that this town, this forest area, is called Arkham. Now, that's key because arc means a bow, or to arc, or to arch, or the arch. And I believe every time I see that that's in reference to the arc of our world, or the arch of the world, or our sky, or our atmosphere, our upper atmosphere, if you like to see it like that. And also electrical arcing. This particular town is called Arkham. Ham is short for like Hamlet or town, like a small town or something. All right, so it says that this place was full of legends, and they cut to the scene where there's this girl. I'm going to show you the girl in a minute, but that's her horse over here in the background, as you can see her horse right there. And in front of it, it just briefly shows the four legs of some Barbie doll or something that she had put together, and she strung it up on the tree, but she made the legs in the design of a swastika. Isn't that interesting? You know what? That reminded me, I did a short video of, I don't even know how long that video was, but it was like 15 seconds. I was at a museum that used to be a courthouse, and I'm like, why are there swastikas on the floor? And like a million people, all these drones are like, the swastika wasn't always a Nazi symbol. It used to be a symbol of good luck, etc. in Buddhism. Like, I know that. Are you trying to tell me that like the old rich white people that owned the courthouse in the late 1800s were Buddhists? You know what I mean? Like, get out of here. Anyhow, regardless, I'm not saying the swastika is good or bad. I'm sorry about the connotation with the word. However, that symbol represents the plasma as seen from above whenever it goes down through the domes and then hits the winds that's swirling around in our world through the tempest. Then all of a sudden those beams break and they move with the wind. And that's where you get the broken cross from. Hey, what's up, Nim Consultants? That's a long 7 years, you're right. Alea Dion says, JayDreamerZ, good evening. Wishing you lack of technical difficulties. Thank you, I appreciate it. All right, so we zoom in on one of the first family members. She's portrayed as being a total pagan, typical witch, Wiccan, more Alexandrian Wiccan, etc. than Wiccan. So check this out. I want to make a point here because this movie is entirely about the ultimate end or the ultimate beginning. It's about the apocalypse. It's even mentioned a few times all throughout the movie. They are showing us the apocalypse as seen from one perspective, or a few people's perspective in this case, right? So this witch, this woman who's practicing witchcraft, which I'm not for or against. Whatever people's belief systems are, that's fine. I love it. Whatever you want to believe in. But the thing is, she's standing in a circle of protection, right? There's scientific fact behind magic and spellcraft and things of that nature. However, this movie is blatantly showing you there is no escape. Okay, the plasma in the movie cares not what your belief system is. It cares not, or as Alanon would say in the Shannara Chronicles, it matters not. It matters not what your belief system is. It doesn't. It doesn't care if you have a circle of rocks around you. If you believe in one god or another god, it's impartial to that. And as we'll see in the movie, the plasma possibly and probably can read your aura, so it can see straight through to the heart of you. Now, I thought this was interesting. So she's reciting a protection spell, and she makes this. This is the squatting man gesture with the arms raised up just like that. So she does the squatting man gesture, which is, the squatting man is the gesture you see when the blue beam from the plasma volcano at the North Pole shoots up into the sky, and then it separates as it gets to the top, and it separates around the volcano itself on the bottom because it's magnetized. All right. Now, let's see here. Oh, this is interesting to me. So I look up people's names whenever I'm watching movies and stuff. And this girl's name, I got it here, Lavinia Gardner. So I looked up the word Lavinia. I know it's hard for you guys to see this, so I'll just read it. But it says Lavinia. Oh, I could barely read it. Oh, it says to harvest, essentially. Lavinia. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Gardner. Lavinia actually means mother of Rome, or a Roman woman, but usually with the emphasis on being a mother of Rome, which is really interesting to me. So a mother of Rome, she's a witch. She's clearly representing the pagan class, which were the hill people, which stemmed from the Roman Empire, which stemmed from the seven hills of Italy. All right, so let's skip past that. So check this out. She's doing her protection spell. This dude shows up in blue. Now this, I'm going to tell you right now, this is the only guy who survives this movie, okay? It's okay. You can know that. You need to know that. Why? Because I want you to see all of the blue references when it comes to this particular character in the movie. He represents a few different things, one of those being the blue gods that come down during the plasma apocalypse, whether they be blue or not. Sometimes and often they were depicted as being blue, especially a dark blue. But this is really interesting. His name is Ward Phillips. Ward means to protect. She was just doing a protection spell, right? Now this guy's wearing blue, which represents the blue beam, which is seen as like a savior type archetype. So he's wearing the blue of the blue beam. He is the hero, we would say, or the survivor of the story. And Philip actually means horse lover, which is really interesting because they put this horse right in there with his opening scene. It's a white horse. Now, I talk about that a lot. Various belief systems and cultures and religions and whatnot across the world and across time, many of them have prophecies of these white, holy, magical animals that show up just before the reset happens, just before the apocalypse comes, or to usher in some sort of a new age or new era. So often those white creatures are depicted as ones that we're already familiar with. To some cultures, it was a horse. To some cultures, it was a buffalo, etc., and so on. So this guy is actually working for like the electro water department or something. And he says, I'm doing a survey for hydrolit, which is interesting because the subtitles say hydrolit, which is water and light together, or fluid and light together, I should say. Which to me indicates plasma, right? A fluid light. All right, so her name is Lavinia Gardner. So she's the mother of Rome and a gardener. She's in the garden. They're telling you right now, this whole family, her whole family are the main characters, essentially. And their last name is Gardner. So they are the gardeners of the garden. So symbolically, you're looking at the North Pole, or the Garden of Eden, or the old land that was once there and still may be there. Lavinia, it says right here, just in case you want to check it out, it says that the Latin meaning is the mother of the Romans. The Spanish meaning is the mother of the Romans. Same thing. Interesting. Now check this out. She's got, just to solidify, in case there was any doubt, she's got a tattoo of the pentagram right there on her foot with the circle around it. So they're pointing this out first. They're picking on the witches first and showing like, hey, pagan, good, bad, Christian, it doesn't matter. The plasma is impartial. All it cares about is your spirit, your energy, your chakra, your auras. That's all it sees. So she takes off on her horse, which interestingly enough is named Comet, which I believe comets are electromagnetic phenomena, not just space snowballs. And then it zooms in. Check this out. Have you guys noticed this? Have you noticed that there's this influx of like llama symbolism in pop culture lately? Like, I swear in the last 10 years, like for some reason llamas are the animal to feature, and they're always featured in some weird esoteric strange way, right? Isn't that weird? Like in the game Fortnite, you have to break open a llama and you get all these rewards and stuff like that. So it doesn't look like I have it here. I thought I had it on the next slide, but I looked up the word llama and it's interesting. The word llama equates to the word flame. Isn't that interesting? Because this whole movie is about the flames of the Lord, the flames of God, the flames from above, the holy fire. It goes by many names. The plasma goes by many names. All right. So then she's looking for her brother. The witch gets home. She's looking for her brother. She says, I can smell your stoned ass from here. Now, here's another thing that they make a point of, okay? Every single person in almost every single horror movie I have ever watched, the one that survives, if you're like me, you always try to guess who's going to survive right at the beginning of the movie, right? The one that survives is the one that does not do any bad stuff. They don't do drugs. They don't curse. They don't have sex. I mean, stuff that's seen typically as being bad or whatever, right? Jason Voorhees will kill the crap out of you if you just had sex with anybody. If you said a 4-letter word, or especially if you were smoking weed or getting high. So that's a common theme for me. Now, are those things individually bad and deserving of being zapped by plasma and the fires of God? I lean towards no. However, to me, they're just symbolic. They're easy things that we can pick up on that are commonly conveyed as being sinful or bad or rebellious or things of that nature, right? And those are the ones that tend to die. So the brother pops out. Oh, yeah, I was totally just getting high. Busted. Boom, he's going to die. She's a witch, and she starts... Actually, it's not really the fact that she's a witch, okay? Or a practicing Wiccan. It's more her attitude, I would say. Everybody in this movie exhibits that they have some underlying issue of negativity, and the plasma doesn't care. The plasma just sees you as you are. I took a picture of this because of two things. One, I wanted you to see the well in the background. Her little brother, Jack, is looking down the well, right? Jack and Jill went up a hill to fetch a pail of water, right? That's Jack right there looking down the well. Sometimes it's known as the wishing well. To me, the well represents the plasma volcano itself, symbolically in the movie, right? And then if you notice in the back, she also has the triangle pointing up in the back of her head and the purple hair as well. Purple typically is associated with those who live closer to the North Pole during the plasma apocalypse. Johnny Nevermind is in the chat and says JayDreamerZ reviews are better than the movies themselves. Sometimes they take longer than the movies themselves, right? Right on. All right. So anyways, her brother's looking down the well. His name's Jack. Jack and Jill, Jack and the Beanstalk. This well is where the plasma shoots up out of, just like the plasma volcano shoots right up out of it. And that's Jack's beanstalk. So it's appropriate that little Jack is looking down into the well, looking for his beanstalk or his plasma tree or whatever you want to call it, the beam of plasma, right? So Jack, I looked up the origin of Jack. It comes from the word and the name Jacob or Yaakov, right? In the Old Testament, the patriarchs' names were Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob was one of the biblical patriarchs of the Bible. And it also says here, it comes from Yaakobos, from the Hebrew Yah. Oh, I can't read it. It's too small. Yaakov. Literally, one who grabs at the heel or a supplanter. So all you have to get out of this, and it's also Diego, Iago, Jago, Jacopo. There's different ways that it's pronounced, right? But all you need to know is that this indicates the one who takes the place of. And whenever you see these esoteric movies, often one of the characters is named some derivative of Jacob, the supplanter, the one who takes the place of. He's the new one, essentially, who takes the place of humanity, right? What I'm talking about are aliens or gods or angels, right? They come down. Many of us die during the plasma apocalypse or the reset or the pulse shift. And the aliens or angels or gods or whatever you want to call them, they come down and they take our place. They take the place of the ones who have died, and they start to rebuild and stuff like that. Now, check this out. They show you the view from inside the well, looking up. You will see this. I don't know how to find similar images of this particular camera angle, but I see this camera angle all of the time in movies. We showed it a couple of times during a couple of our last movie breakdowns as well. Why is that important? Because they show you the perspective from inside of the plasma volcano, right? You can go inside of it. You could jump inside of it, and it becomes basically a cave because gravity flips around towards the wall, and you walk on the inner wall, which is really interesting. So they show you the perspective from inside of it, right? So his sister's like, "What are you looking at, Jack?" And he says, "Dad said if you look long enough, you can see the stars down there." Interesting. And he says that he does see stars down there too. So does he see stars as in our stars that we see when we look up? Possibly. He could be looking at the reflection of the stars during the nighttime in the water or something along those lines. Or he could actually see little lights dancing about down there that he interprets as stars. I believe that the plasma volcano is full of light, especially what many would perceive to be lightning bugs or ball lightning or lanterns floating about, all kinds of things, right? Because it's highly electromagnetically charged. Now, I put the word duck up there because they have a family dinner, right? And when they show you all the characters, this is the dad. Nick Cage is the dad. By the way, Nick or Nicholas means victory, right? So Nick Cage means victory cage, or Nicholas is victory cage of the people, or the people's victory cage, right? What's a victory cage? A victory cage is a Faraday cage. It protects you from the plasma as it strikes, or lightning as it strikes, and it keeps you safe and enables you to survive. That is the victory cage. At least for those who are in the plasma apocalypse. So, anyways, they're eating dinner, and it's got little pieces of duck in it or something, and the kid is like, "I love ducks. I love ducks." And he's like, "Everybody loves ducks." Now, listen, this isn't just side conversation. They have to fit so much stuff into the movie that they have to clip out the unimportant parts. They left this in there when he says everybody loves ducks. Ducks are also symbolic of a few things esoterically. One of them is the plasma, the way that it looks in the sky whenever it has the opening and it kind of drifts out and it looks like it creates a beak or something like that. So oftentimes there's many bird gods and stuff like that, or they call them duck gods as well. And that's why we have so much duck symbolism in pop culture. Like there's Howard the Duck, who's associated with aliens and beings coming down into this world and stuff like that. But everybody loves ducks. Really interesting. Oh, also duck, like the etymology of the word duck, the origin of duck, literally means to just fall down. Typically in the water, it means to go down underneath or to pass through the water quickly. So it also symbolizes and gives homage and reference to those beings who passed through the waters quickly and then came out, because there are waters above, just like there are waters on the surface and waters below. All right, so this is the mom right here. See the mom? So everybody's cool, by the way. They're all eating dinner. They're having a good time. Everybody's laughing. They're smiling. There's nothing wrong at all. It seems to be like a normal, slightly dysfunctional family or whatnot, right? The mom goes up into the attic, and she's working up in the attic, which is really interesting to me that they put her up there. But look at the window. They chose the attic because of the shape. The window shows you the triangle with the line going straight down. That represents the plasma volcano and the beam of plasma, or the cave of saviors, as I call it, that goes through it, right? And then if you look at the actual attic itself, it's an unfinished pyramid. She's working inside of an unfinished pyramid. Isn't that interesting? Thank you, Damien. Hey, Donna, welcome to the Good Vibe Tribe. Good to see you. Plasma ducks. You guys crack me up. All right, so let's go back to the witch, the daughter witch, right? It says they're eating dinner. They're having a good time. The mom asks about the dinner, and he says, although apparently our daughter would rather have fast food. He's referencing the witch girl, right? And she says, and just what kind of meat do you think you're eating at the golden arches? Arch. Boom. They reference the arch again, or the arc. Electrical arcing, the arc over our world, the heavens, the vaulted dome, etc. What do you think? What kind of meat do you think you're eating when you go to McDonald's, basically, right? And she says, I know it's mechanically retrieved, but it tastes like heaven. Isn't that sad? That's our society. Like, people know they're eating poison, but they bask in it. They love it. And then the dad says, then just wait till you try the alpaca meat next year. Alpaca is the llama. Interesting, right? He says, then you'll know what heaven is. Oh, there's another space or heavenly reference to the llamas, right? Esoteric reference to the llamas. And the llamas having some sort of a connection with the heavens or space above. He says, because they're the animal of the future, remember? Those Mayans knew what they were about. This is the dad still talking. Now he references the Mayans. And then she responds, that's why they went extinct. And then her mother rebukes her, right? That's why the Mayans went extinct. Wow. I mean, like, they reference the Mayans going extinct in the movie. So I looked it up. About what time did the Mayans just disappear, okay? Now, some people will try to tell you, like, oh, they just kind of faded away, or, oh, they just kind of, like, diminished in numbers for unknown reasons, and they just kind of, like, there's no good excuse, no good reason I've ever seen on the internet, anywhere, or in any book that adequately describes the mysterious disappearance of so many advanced ancient civilizations. The complete disappearance with pockets of survivors. You know what does explain that? Having a worldwide cyclical phenomenon that happens to cataclysmically restart and destroy the world as we know it. That makes sense to me, especially if that includes zero gravity and a worldwide tempest and everything getting sucked up into the sky and just relocated or disappearing completely, getting sucked up into the heavens or space or whatever. Now, when was the Dark Ages? I wonder if that coincides with the Mayan disappearances. Oh, look at that. It sure does. Dark Ages, 476 AD to 1000 AD. Mayan disappearance, 900 AD. It coincides. Interesting. So I wonder why we had a Dark Ages with missing information and a time of rebuilding. And the world was destroyed. The world has been destroyed and remade over and over again. Man. All right. So then the dad goes down to the basement to grab some wine, and as he goes back up, he says, there's a smell of conspiracy here, which I thought was really interesting. That was the last line in that scene, and he barely said it. I only picked it up because of the subtitles. But he says, and they add in the movie to the script, there is a smell of conspiracy here. This movie, like all movies, is talking to us directly. It's not just some story for any old person to listen to. This is a story for you. It's your story. It's our story. And they're giving it right back to us in the form of and the guise of entertainment, right? Pretending like it's here to amuse you when it's really here, if you allow it, and if you have the ears to hear and the eyes to see, it's here to help you. It's here to make us better, and it's here to enlighten us. All right, so check this out. Everything's good in the family. Now, first of all, do you see how the fog is setting in? Okay? It could be natural. That's fine, whatever. But movie producers tend to make sure that they understand, like they include the weather that they want in that scene, usually. as you can see, they're getting along splendidly. They're just hanging out on the front porch. Everything's good. They're smiling. They're laughing. They're starting to flirt, actually, a bunch. The wife's even like, oh, hey, whoa, we're getting kind of old. I don't know. Are you sure? And this guy's overwhelmed with passion. Why? Where'd this come from? Why is this even being shown in the movie, right? Is it trying to just trick us? No. It's showing you the events that lead up to the plasma apocalypse. The energy gets stronger and stronger, which is reflected in the human spirit. It's reflected in the human body, in our chromosomes, in our very DNA, which means that people's sex drive also gets super strong. I would imagine, especially during and after the plasma apocalypse, when you're just invigorated. Your whole livelihood is on overdrive. You can't die. You're so alive. So yeah, I imagine that people's sex drive goes pretty high. So they say we're living the dream. That's how good things are. This is how the movie starts off. We're living the dream. We've got this cabin in the woods. Everything's great. We're living the dream. Maybe it is a dream. Well, a dream you dream alone is just a dream. A dream you dream together is reality. Do you see that? This is Hollywood. This is the movies, the magic wand of entertainment, showing you our deepest reality about dreams being reality, and that our reality is just a dream, one that we're all dreaming about together. Interesting. That's a concept that goes back many thousands of years. So they take us to the daughter's bedroom. I can't really see it in this picture, but she's got like the Necronomicon and stuff. She's got a dirty bed with food on it. That's just, I can't do that. I have done that. But anyway, they're just showing you more stuff. Oh, and then her t-shirt says, "Don't trust anyone." They had her wear that purposefully. Why? Because they're conveying a message to you, the audience. They are telling you, whenever they put stuff in words on the screen, they're directly talking to you. Don't trust anyone. Be careful. Why? Why was that? Well, I mean, wouldn't it be easier to just be super happy and trust everybody? Or isn't not trusting anyone a little too extreme? I think about the Matrix. Remember in the Matrix? You couldn't trust anyone. We pity everyone, right? We give everyone respect, but you can't trust any of them because if they're not awakened, they can turn into an agent, right? Which we're going to see here in a minute, because this family is about to be completely divided. This solid, loving family. Check this out. This is the boy's room. The sister's brother, right? He's in his room, and look what it says on the wall. Can you see that? It says, "No flesh shall be spared." On his wall, right there. Look, "No flesh shall be spared." Let me tell you a secret. In this movie, nobody is religious. Not one person was given away as having a religion or a spiritual belief system of any kind aside from the Wiccan girl. So the fact that they put this in this boy's room, and the boy, actually the rest of his room is like space decorations, craters on the moon and stuff like that, which is electrical activity. No flesh shall be spared. They put that in there in writing to talk to you, to talk to me directly. They're letting you know. Let's see. Spells of Truth says, JayDreamerZ, have you analyzed the movie before? I feel like you have. Maybe I'm just having deja vu. I've had super deja vu lately. And I actually have broken down the movie before, but never in an actual Truth in Movies night. So I wanted to make it official, basically, and show lots of pictures and stuff. All right. So they have the boy, his dog starts whining, right? The dog starts getting kind of agitated, and he says, "It's okay, good boy, Sam." His name's Sam. And then they zoom in on his cup, his glass cup, by the way. That would never be a plastic cup. That would never be a rubber cup or a ceramic or anything. That would have to be glass for this movie to work. And he says, "Oh, you're not interested in the black hole, Sam?" He's talking to his dog because he's researching space stuff, even though he's got some religious quote from the Bible on his wall, right? He says, "Oh, you're not interested in the black hole?" They put that in the script because there is a black hole that opens up in our sky that sucks everything up into it. And that's what he's looking at. And he mentions that because they're telling you that's what this movie is about. Don't believe me? Here's their house. Look right above it. Do you see this little outline of magenta, like a little crescent right there? Well, guess what appears high above their house? There's a dot and there's a circle right around it. It's kind of hard to see because it's kind of dark right there, but it's a dot and a circle. That is the hole in the first dome and the hole in the second dome, and the plasma is going to stream down from that. You'll see. So, in the middle of the night, this is the plasma apocalypse, day 1, when it actually starts to happen, right? Before it happens, all of the energy in our world just builds up. Hey, what's up, Wayfair? I see you in the chat. I am Karen. Good to see you. K-Bar, Kimbox, AW Waves. Good to see everybody. East 83. All right, so as you can see, the light around everyone starts to turn a bright magenta. The dog loses his mind and starts becoming vicious. Why do the animals turn vicious? Because that plasma, the red, or the red spectrum, I should say, plasma, that comes down into this world is essentially spirit that is programmed, or energy that is programmed to kill, to clean house. It's a cleaning process, right? I'm trying to get comfy in my chair. The plasma comes down to clean up this world. It's resetting. It needs to get rid of all the bad, or whatever it deems to be bad. So it possesses many things. It possesses animals all over the place. I'm sure the insects are also susceptible to plasma possession, and especially the human beings. All of us? No. There's always exceptions. It falls to us to figure out what those exceptions are so that we can meet them, right? So this right here is the story of Cujo, Pet Cemetery, and the like. So now they show the plasma in the barn. This is the color you can expect to see. This is the color out of space, the color that comes down from above, from the heavens. This is the glory of the Lord if you're a religious person. So they show the daughter. She's sleeping. Her room lights up magenta. Shows the brother. Now look at the brother. I want to point something out here. Electromagnetics does interesting things to various people in various situations. In this example, this kid is looking down at the keyboard, not at his screen, and if I zoomed in, you would actually see spit dripping down off of his lip. He is zoned out, and that's one of the things that can happen with electromagnetics. It can zone you out. She's got a dream catcher here in the shape of a pentagon or something, or a pentagram. And then this says Babylon Horrors, which is really interesting too. Also another biblical reference to the horror of Babylon, which I believe is just the world. I know a lot of people like to, blame certain countries or cities or regions or whatever, but to me, it's the entire world. Then it zooms in on her Necronomicon. Obviously, she's looking into the Book of the Dead. And then here's the little boy, the youngest one, right? The plasma comes in, and what does he do? Man, kids are so smart. The simplest things. Don't look at it. Cover your eyes, right? See no evil. Just like hear no evil. Now, if he would have done the hear no evil part, he wouldn't have lost his hearing like he does here in a minute. Boom! There's a huge boom, right? And then all of a sudden, there's this brain-looking plasma rock that's, looks like an asteroid that landed in their front yard or something, right? This is all symbolic. Okay, now will pieces of the sky fall? Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Like huge, gigantic chunks of the sky, iceberg-sized pieces of ice will just fall down from above, along with many other things. Now, here's the good news. Don't be too scared, because I believe that when these things fall back down, that means that the gravitational force has been restored to our world, and I believe it will restore slowly. So the good news is anything that's falling down is actually floating down, and you should be able to dodge it quite easily unless it's pretty big, in which case just be careful. So now here's the kid in the middle. Something's wrong with him after this pink light went off throughout the whole house. The family is all just freaking out, and the kid is just not talking to anybody. He's not responding to anyone, so they think that he's mute. However, when he just goes a while staring off into space, all of a sudden he can talk again, and they're like, oh my God, are you okay? This movie doesn't explain why any of this stuff happens. It lands to us to figure it out, right? I believe this kid was deaf. That boom that you heard is the depressurizing of our atmosphere, of the entire dome of the world, of the roof and the ceiling of our home. And whenever it explodes, I believe there's a huge, loud banging noise like a bell, like a real big gigantic bell. And that has the ability, along with the instant or rapid depressurization, to make people not be able to hear things for a time, and it can even make it permanent too, depending on how severe it is. So this kid just wasn't talking because he lost his hearing. All right, so now they've got the mayor and the police chief coming in to check out this asteroid. The mayor's name is Tuma. Do you see that down there? Tuma? I looked up the name Tuma, and basically it means unclean. Okay? Like not ready for some sort of a ritual, sacrifice, or offering or something like that. Or a priest that's considered to be unclean and cannot perform in those ceremonies. That's the mayor. So they named the mayor of the city, which is symbolic and representative of our entire world for the purposes of the movie. The mayor, the diplomat in the movie, is corrupt. Literally corrupt. Corrupted. Poison. Corrupt, bad, unclean, whatever you want to call it, right? Interesting that they named the mayor that. The sheriff's name is Pierce. Or to pierce. Or to put a hole into something. Interesting. So corruption and a hole. And he says, thanks for coming, corruption and hole. And he says, I'm so sorry about the smell. Now, Nick Cage is just going on and on about like how terrible the smell is. He's making a big deal. It smells like, he says it smells like a burnt dog or something gross like that, which was weird. I don't know what a burnt dog would smell like. But the cop comes in and says, I don't smell anything. Check this out. They don't acknowledge this in the movie, but Nicolas Cage is the only one that smells this terrible smell that's coming from this thing that came out of the sky, right? The kid was the only one who was affected with his hearing loss, right? So they're choosing out examples of the family to represent portions of humanity. A portion of the people will experience hearing loss for various times or various amounts of times. A portion of the people will experience no taste or distorted taste, right? I think I actually have a picture in here somewhere for it. But basically, remember how I talk about the nitrous oxide clouds that develop during the reset and that those, fly through different cities and stuff like that? If you have one of those nitrous oxide clouds hit you, there's a lot of different things that can happen. One, you'll get very giggly and laughing because it's laughing gas. But another byproduct of laughing gas is that it changes your taste buds and even your smell, your senses of smell. This can also happen to you if you get shocked in the wrong way, and it can affect your brain, and it can tell your brain that you're smelling something that you're not, right? So he's the only one, Nicolas Cage is the only one who smells it. And I can tell you from my research, the smell that he's describing sounds like it's brimstone, okay? So the brimstone, when they talk about fire and brimstone from the heavens and stuff, that's what he's smelling. And he says, there was this boom. That was the depressurization of your world, Nicolas Cage. And it was like a sonic boom. So this was a really, really loud boom. When this happens, everyone will know it all at one time. Windows may explode outwards. I'm not sure how that works, if they implode or they explode, but many windows will just be gone. People may lose their hearing. They may experience a loud ringing in their ears. You probably have to do like you do when you're on the airplane or when you're driving to really high altitudes to pop your ears. That will help you. That will help to actually save your ears from being destroyed. And he says, and there was a big flash, like a pink light. And then everything just blew up or fell from the sky. Isn't that interesting, right? It wasn't really just everything that fell from the sky. It was just that rock in the movie. So why'd they say everything fell from the sky, right? Blew up or fell from the sky. Because it's symbolic of what actually happens. This happens all the time, okay? We've had many resets in our past. The thing is we can't remember. We forget about it. Just like I just totally forgot about the chat. Oh my God. It was stuck. The chat had froze on my side. Grim UK. Actually, you do ask a good question. I'm going to take a quick time out and acknowledge your question. Grim UK says, Jay, sorry dude, may I ask what this channel is about? There seems to be a mix, including Christians, at least a lot of scriptures being quoted. Good call, Grim. For that, I'm going to recommend going to my About section on my channel and just reading it. and you can read all about what my channel's about. But essentially, we talk about the truth in the fringe, in sci-fi, in fantasy, in religion, in all of the various aspects and perspectives. We try to put those together following a trail of breadcrumbs back home. We want to put the puzzle pieces together to see the bigger picture instead of just holding on to one or two, thinking that we have everything that we need for that bigger picture. Hope that helps you out, buddy. All right, let's see what else we got here. So moving forward, we got the guy in blue who represents the blue gods, or possibly also the blue beam and the witch together. I took a picture of that so I could see what his shirt says. I forgot, though. And then you got this weird milk shot. This guy's milking the alpacas or the llamas. Remember what llama means? Llama means flame, right? He's milking them, and he's getting some sort was getting milk from the llama. Now, if the llama is symbolic of the flames of plasma, because that's what llama means, what is the milk that he's getting from the plasma? Interesting. Could that be related to the honey of the gods, the holy and sacred honey, or the sacred bees that produce the sacred honey, or maybe even ambrosia, or the milk of the gods, etc.? The land flowing with milk and honey. Interesting. And I find that a lot, too, in the movies, especially people who are deemed as bad, which the father is completely a psycho later on in the movie. They enjoy milk. They always show them drinking milk, right? And when you look that up and you Google that and research it, it's just going to say, oh, it's to create a sense of like an oxymoron. It's to confuse you because it's strange that a bad guy would drink milk because that's a childlike quality to drink milk or whatever. It doesn't suffice for me. That explanation does not suffice. I did an entire video explaining the milk symbolism called Is Space White? So check that out if you like. We're going to move forward. Then it shows her room. And in the background, I don't know if you guys can see it. I'll see if I can zoom in. Will it let me go up? Oh, it does. Check that out. You see this thing right here? That is the sky wheel. That's also what the plasma looks like with the circle and then these spokes that shoot out. That's the plasma on the inside. And another circle, a secondary circle. That's one of the images of the hole in the sky. It's also seen as Nibiru, which we'll show you later on. This movie depicts Nibiru pretty well, too. All right, then the girl, the daughter, the witch, starts pinching herself so hard that it's breaking her skin, right? And it shows this. It zooms in on it, and she seems to be unaffected. Why is that? Because another byproduct of those nitrous oxide pockets or clouds, or just nitrous oxide in general, is that it numbs you. You can't feel pain anymore, right? If you have a lot of nitrous oxide in your system. So then, boom, here's lightning, a storm comes. This is just showing you all plasma apocalypse symbolism. She looks up, she goes out into the storm. This is the plasma apocalypse that she's looking at. It's all pink and magenta and stuff. Looks up at it, says it's so beautiful. Isn't that what they always say? Whether it be a UFO or alien lights or plasma in the sky or whatever, they always look up and they always say how beautiful it is right before they die or get turned to stone or something, right? So let's take a clue from the movies. If you happen to experience this event, don't go outside. Don't stare at it. It has the ability to hypnotize you and draw you even closer to kill you. So not a good idea. That's just me. You're super welcome, Grim. All right, so then the plasma, or in this form, lightning, whatever it is, the plasma comes down, starts shooting at that rock. Lots of plasma in the sky. Now, this is the dude in blue. That black guy that was wearing blue. His truck is also blue. His flashlight's blue. Matter of fact, everything about this dude is blue. Now, check this out. He's listening to the radio, and all of a sudden there's static, and it starts going just like that, right? You see this in a lot of ghost stories as well. The haunted ghost stories and stuff where all of a sudden the electronics, like radio stations, are switching on their own. Lights turn on or flicker. This is electromagnetic phenomenon. This is how electronics work when they're disturbed, when there's a disturbance in the force, I guess you could say, right? So he's starting to panic, starting to freak out. They're leaving us to think that the campground's just haunted or something like that, right? Actually, they're pretty forthright with what's going on with the electromagnetic. Then his phone rings, right? None of the phones are working. during this time in this movie, nobody can make a phone call. There's many people that try, but all they hear is static. That's because there's an EMP that goes off, disables all of our electronics, and then we have an influx of electricity, which turns it all back on. However, it's all turned on with a mind of its own. It's all turned on and it does whatever it wants to do. It is free from its old programming because it's possessed by new forms of electronics or electromagnetics, and therefore it has a new purpose, and it does whatever it wants to do according to its ability. So phones will turn on and ring, and they may sound like there's people talking to you, and there very well could be, but quite often, just like we talked about during the Banshee video of the Banshees and Siren Head and stuff, electromagnetics can imitate vibration. Right? It can remember vibrations and repeat them and give them back to you. It just sounds more garbled, right? Because it's electricity. So this guy shines his light. You can barely see it, but there's some magenta right here. It just barely goes by like a ghost. That is the plasma in the atmosphere. So his car turns on all by itself. We got a little one-eye symbolism there. Boom, car turns on. There's nobody in his car. That's because it's electrically charged all by itself, right? Because there's an influx of electricity into the world. Now, the next day, we've got the news van that comes called WARK, ARC, there it is again, and their symbol is a little tree leaf, or a tree, looks like a tree, I would say. That's the blue beam, right? That's the blue beam that shoots out and branches out to each side. They actually show you a really good physical example of it. I'll show you the tree here in a minute. Okay, so then the dad's being interviewed, and they make him look so goofy, right? Of course, they have to take everything that is accurate and turn it into some sort of a story, right? Even if it's misconstrued, that's what we do. We're storytellers. We tell the stories from our own perspectives, from our own preferences, the way we want it to go. So they're spinning his story of surviving the plasma apocalypse, essentially, as he saw a UFO, which to me is so typical, right? It's just got to be if we don't understand it, half the population's like, could be an alien. It's probably UFOs. It's probably UFOs, you know, like that's such a vague and general concept and statement. Like, I can't stand it. Like we need to get way more specific and in depth than just chalking it up to it's probably UFOs. You know what I mean? So that's what they do to him. Now, the next day or that night, the mom is cooking dinner. She cracks open an egg, which is symbolism for the dome cracking. Okay. The moon is also seen in ancient cultures as being a cosmic egg, as is our world to other realms out there. They see the dome of our sky and they see another egg in their sky. And our eggshell or the sky will crack open one day, just like others will too. All right, so she opens up this egg and check this out. It's all bloody. It's clearly got something growing in there. Why do they show us this? Why do they choose an egg that has blood in it instead of just a regular egg? Because the circumstances of whatever is going on in this movie is causing this to become an anomaly. What do I mean by that? I mean that normally, without the plasma apocalypse, this would have been probably a regular yellow egg that was dead. But the influx of plasma brings things to life. It accelerates life on a massive scale, exponentially. So this egg got life again. It started to grow and turn into a chicken, and she just opened it up, and now it's scrambled chicken in a bowl, basically. She starts to cut. Now remember, we said that they're suffering from a nitrous oxide gas cloud that has come through their city, apparently. She's cutting these carrots, minding her own business, but remember, just like the girl who was pinching herself, she couldn't feel it. She cuts her fingers right off. But the crazy part is she doesn't flip out. She doesn't freak out at all. She just stares off into space, droned out, right? If you can't hold your sobriety or your ability to focus and to stay reasonable and mentally sound, then you may suffer and be zoned out during the apocalypse as well, especially when there's all these different frequencies hitting us, gamma rays, all kinds of space rays from quote-unquote space, and chemicals in the air and in the water, right? Be very careful. Be alert. Be wise, right? Just being a good person is great, but if you're a good person that drinks a cup of poison, you're a dead good person, right? Or if you can't die during the plasma apocalypse, it may be very painful. So she says, dinner's ready. Boom. My hand's all chopped off. She doesn't even notice it, right? She just takes it in stride, starts to serve dinner. Everyone in the family is like, oh my God, your fingers are missing. So the husband takes her out. He's going to take her to the hospital, right? So he leaves. Now this is where he starts to get plasma possessed, okay? It was a little bit beforehand, but now he's super, super plasma possessed. And what do I mean by that? In humanity, when we become plasma possessed, oh, popcorn. When we become plasma possessed, if an individual is plasma possessed, it heightens whatever energy is latent on the inside. That means you can't hide from it. Whatever energy you have going on. Hey, thanks for the donation from Thief90. Says, do the movie's Adjustment Bureau and the source code. Actually, those are two really good ones, so I may consider that. But when you get plasma possessed, it's energy amplification at its finest, and it will amplify your energy, meaning your soul, your spirit, your chakras, whatever you have going on inside of you. If you have skeletons in the closet, they're going to come out, and you won't have any control over it. What this means with a lot of people is their anger tends to come out. People become violent killers, completely justified in their own minds. And anything can set them off. Anything that can make them go left. Anything. It could be the tiniest little thing, and they'll flip out and beat someone to death, and it'll be totally justified in their minds. They might even like snap out of it a minute later and be like, hey, you okay? And check on people or whatever. But that's plasma possession at its finest, and it's energy amplification of the soul. So it shows the little kid over here. He's staring off at the well over here. He's actually listening to these sounds that are coming from the well. He believes that he hears somebody talking to him. This is exactly the sound of electricity that we were talking about with the Banshee video, right? He says, it's talking to me. Who's talking to you? The man in the well. Is there a man in the well? If it's a plasma volcano and the plasma shoots up and makes like the Burning Man stick figure in the sky kind of thing, then yes, there is a man in the well. And this is why it's important for us to be on guard, right? To be very careful about how we live our lives and to practice how we live our lives in the best possible way so that we're not easily persuaded when these things happen. We have a guard about us, you could say. So the phones all start ringing. Every time they pick it up, it's like, it's all creepy sounding, right? That's just static in the air. That's plasma in the air. It could be warping things that already picked up on. It's just like the mockingjays in the Hunger Games, right? It can copy and mimic sounds. Then all of a sudden, new alien-looking plant life sprouts up. I believe that it's not actually alien plant life. Here's my theory on this, right? So whenever our world has an influx of spirit or life, I think that half of the plants, if not all of the plants that we see today, are underdeveloped, even when they look like they're fully developed, because that crucial life-giving element is sort of missing or depleted in our world today. So I believe when it's restored, plants that we used to think we knew what they look like will grow above and beyond that, turning into more beautiful and bigger things to the point where we might not even recognize them anymore. I just got a donation from Supule Alofia Solomona. Hey, thank you. I appreciate it. Very kind, very kind. You guys are amazing. All right, so let's continue on. Here's that same shot, looking up from the plasma volcano at the sky. This is in The Ring. This is in The Dark Crystal. This is in so many different movies. I wish I had a list off the top of my head of how many movies have this particular image in them. So the kid's looking down into the well, and there's some sort of a creature down there. It looks back up at him, but does it see him like this? No. This is our light spectrum, you see? The plasma looks into the electromagnetic wavelengths, and we look more like predator vision, if you know what the predator is, to these entities. They can just size us up in a second. They know if you're good or bad. They know if you're sleeping or awake, just like Santa Claus. This is Santa Claus, actually. The plasma that comes down through the chimney of the world, etc. Then it shows you this bug that was just looking at him, okay? So in the movie, it's a bug. This is the eyesight of the bug. I believe it's two things. One, plasma. Two, those beings who are possessed by said plasma. In this case, it's this weird looking locust bug. Why did they choose to put this particular type of bug in the movie? Why does it have to be a locust looking bug? I'll tell you. Because one, it represents these otherworldly space creatures in the macrocosm that are way bigger, that look like large versions of many of our insects down here, or even our microscopic life. It's way bigger out there in space above us, as is everything that comes down. That's why anything that's ever descended down from the heavens is always being described as being gigantic in nature. There's also the biblical passage in the book of Revelation that talks about the swarm of like demon locusts that come up from the bottomless pit, aka the plasma volcano, or that well right there, right? And they actually go around stinging and tormenting people because they can't die, because there's so much energy in the world, nobody can die. But they can feel pain, as long as they're not in those nitrous oxide pockets, I would imagine. But they get stung by these creatures, and these creatures only sting certain people. What they do is they look at the person's aura, and depending on what your aura looks like, they go and they sting you, or they leave you alone. This little boy right here, they totally leave him alone. Happens to be wearing blue, which symbolically is, the plasma volcano color. So, I don't know. Left him alone, though. Now, it's about 20 minutes after 11 o'clock in the morning, and they zoom in on the camera, on the clock, so you can see it. The girl's washing dishes. But she experiences a lapse of time after this plasma. She has this encounter with this beam of plasma that comes into her house, right? She gets possessed by it. You can always tell somebody who's plasma possessed because their spirit is over amplified. Their spirit is their light inside of themselves. That is their inner plasma, endoplasma, right? Which means that the eyes tend to actually give off light. They tend to glow instead of just being dark blackness. Anyways, her eyes start to glow. She's plasma possessed. And next thing you know, 5 hours have passed and she's still standing there. So she snaps out of it. She doesn't know what she's been doing. There's all kinds of water over the floor. She tries to make a phone call, but she just hears, which is the static and the electromagnetic influx in the air. She's listening to it, basically. She has a walkie-talkie tuning into the aliens. So anyways, this is the lapse of time. So what happens is people get zapped by electricity, and it can do funny things to the brain. It can even make you, it can give you segmented amnesia. Yes, it is a mantis. That's right. It's a praying mantis. I mean, it looks like it's one. It's really not. It's a fucking crazy-ass alien creature that just came out of a well. But it does look like a praying mantis. Which is interesting that they chose the praying mantis too. All right, so anyways, so she goes through her lapse of time, right? The blue beam guy shows up at her door and he says, try not to drink the water, okay? Remember, the blue gods, they don't like the water, okay? And you see all the movies, the aliens are scared of earth water for some reason. Our water is probably toxic. At this point in time, it's got fluoride in it, all kinds of disgusting chemicals. It's hard to find pure water these days. Also, there could be a correlation to acid too, and people mistaking acid for holy water, which is interesting because they did mention acid in this movie too. All right, so then we come to this guy who's a squatter on their property, and the other guy walks in. This guy right here walks into this guy's house, and he's like, what are you doing? Because he's like listening to the floor, right? I got makeup on. He looks very eccentric. He's got a beanie. He's got long hair. Obviously, he's more in tune with like nature and stuff like that. He's more of a hippie. He says, you can hear them down there. He says, hey, hear them? Hear who? The people under the floor, dude. The aliens. He says, yeah, okay, well, it's probably just geothermal activity. Do you see this? This is my every conversation. I'm like, bro, check this out. What if it's this? And people always go, nah, it's probably just this. I'm like, yeah, but what if it's not, bro? Yeah, but it's probably just this. Yeah, but what if it's not? Because we're both saying it. We're both speculating. We're both guessing, right? So this guy's like, bro, I literally hear aliens under my floor. And this guy, who's totally wrong, is like, it's probably just geothermal activity. Actually, I can't say that. He's probably not wrong. It's probably it's probably both. It's usually all of it. It's usually everything, right? Especially geothermal activity, meaning earthquakes and stuff. Yeah, you're going to have that. And then he says, you don't get it, do you? It's not out there. It's in here. It's in the static. It's in the moisture. Up is down, fast is slow. What's in here is out there, and what's out there is in here now. Now, he says, oh, okay, I'm going to stop right there. So that was, I hope you like my my Cheech Marin impersonation. Anyways, what was I saying? I was so focused on my impersonation. Oh, and I totally have that guy's comment up there still. All right, sorry about that. Let's see here. Extra long shout out. My point is, this is a conversation that was purposefully done like this so that he sounds, to one type of person listening to this movie, he sounds like a wacko. He just sounds like he's done all kinds of drugs, out of his mind, has no idea what he's talking about, lost touch with reality. But then, let's rewind that conversation. I want to hear that again, but from a rational thinker's perspective. What's in here is out there. He's talking about what's under my floor is out there with you guys, right? Which is the plasma, or those creatures that come up from inside of the earth, aliens, right? And what's out there is in here now. What's outside of our world, the alien creatures, the plasma that's outside of our world has now entered into our world. Anyways, that's what he's talking about. So then the other guy asks about his cat, and he says, "You might see her, but I don't think you'll recognize her." Why not? Because his cat is plasma possessed. Just like in Pet Sematary, his cat got zapped by the plasma, and it's a killer cat now, basically. How do we know? I'm going to show you in a minute. So they show you a scene, all the fog starts to roll in. They show the fog because when the world depressurizes, the atmosphere expands and creates instant fog worldwide. Here's his cat. That is his cat. See how the eyes are literally lights, right? They're beings of light. If your spirit is on overdrive like that, you will be and look like and appear to others as a being of light, a light being. So here's the cat, super plasma possessed, ready to kill anything in its path. It's all... Here's the boy and his dog. The boy and the dog are just chilling there, waiting. The plasma shows up, and the next thing you know, Cujo comes out. The dog is like, "Rrr." Why? Not just because he's protecting his, the kid or whatever, but this brings out the worst in animals. Alfred Hitchcock knew it, and he did the movie Birds when all the world's birds just suddenly became malevolent serial killing birds, right? Same thing. Now, the brother meets up with his sister, the witch, and he's like, "This is going to sound kind of crazy, but I kind of got lost out there. It was like 1 second it was daytime, and all of a sudden it was dark. Like so dark I couldn't even see the house." He is describing the events of the plasma apocalypse. At one moment, it will be daylight for many of you out there. Middle of the day, sunlight, everything, and then all of a sudden, bzzzt, light goes out. Electricity all goes off. The sun turns off. It will be very difficult to see, and then the depressurization will make a thick darkness, thick darkness out of it. She picks up the phone. She listens to the static hotline, 1-800-PLASMA. Now, the dad and the mom come back from the hospital, and the dad starts flipping out and losing it. Like I said, anything can set a person off when they're possessed, when they're plasma possessed, and they have lost control. It's like a darkness just comes all the way around their peripheral vision, and they can only focus on that one thing that's upsetting them, and they get hyped up super fast. They'll hype themselves up real quick. He says, "What's wrong with you two? When the cat's away, the mice will play." And now the dad's acting way out of character from when they initially showed him as being a loving father, good family and stuff. Everyone's going to start to freak out. And I mean in a really bad way. And then the girl's like, "No, there was this sound and then I got sick." Now, here's another thing. Electromagnetism can cause people to get nauseous. Did you know that? Vibrations, depending on the vibration and the person, it can actually make people throw up and get very sick to their stomach. Especially if they're in a strong electromagnetic field or something. She says, "Dad, I tried." He says, "What do you mean you tried?" This is Nick Cage classic freaking out. I love all of his movies. We'll probably do more. What do you mean freaking out? You tried? You tried? What the fuck are you talking about? And then he starts cursing, right? Boom. If this was Friday the 13th, the second he says the F word, you would hear I swear. Oh, and then he's like, what are you talking about? And she says the plasma is they, them, or it. It. Anytime you hear those two letters of it, and it's got something to do with horror or sci-fi or fantasy or something like that, oftentimes it's referencing the plasma. People don't know how to describe it, so they just call it, and they're terrified of it, which is actually why, now that I'm saying the word it so much, in Monty Python's Search for the Holy Grail, which is Monty Python just going to the plasma volcano, or the Cave of Saviors, they meet the knights who say ni, right? And whenever they say it, that's the only word that scares these huge, weird Fantazoid knight creatures in the movie. They're scared of the word it. Why? Because that's what it is the plasma above. It's the holy power, or whatever you want to call it. It says, so do me a favor and get the fuck out of my sight, okay? Classic Nick Cage. Because we need to get... Oh, then she's like, we need to get the hell out of here. Now, this is a recommendation, okay? This is advice from whoever wrote the movie. You need to get out of here. We got to get out of this place. If it's the last thing we ever do, we got to get out of this place. You don't have to. It's not my recommendation. I say, hey, if you like it, if you like how crazy the world is, stick around, see what happens. So Nick Cage goes into his shower, and he sees he's starting to develop some weird rash on his arm. Essentially, he's getting leprosy, right? Now, the fires of God and the heavens and the gods themselves have been known to be able to give people who don't live up to their expectations leprosy. That's one of the very first diseases that gods hand out. Here, have some leprosy, right? So then he reaches down, he picks up this weird jelly thing, and it sprouts these tentacles that wrap around his fingers, and he freaks out, just like I would too. But he freaks out. He's like, oh my God, this represents the plasma. Jelly, anything that is jelly form is representative of plasma itself. It could be other things too, but that's where the word plasm comes from. It's plastic, it's malleable, it's impressionable, it's something that has no shape on its own. It just conforms to whatever shape it's around, like a liquid. All right, then he starts going around picking his ripe fruits, and he says, just look at you beauties, and a month early. So not only does that's a tomato. Not only does he have gigantic tomatoes that grew and peaches and other fruits and stuff, but they bloomed a whole month early, and they're like 3 times bigger than they should be, right? This is the energy amplification. This will make our plants sprout up and be huge and gigantic, and there'll be all kinds of food, once the plants do grow back, there'll be a garden world again. And this is what it's showing you. You can kind of see the leprosy on his arm. I have a better picture of that. And then his wife walks in, and they both get plasma possessed. This is crazy. And you may know people, you may have even been through this before. This scenario, notice the red and the blue there. But she comes in. He's calm and cool. He's like, yeah, I got gigantic tomatoes. Life's good. She comes in. Her internet's down. She's pissed off. She starts yelling at him. You have got to do something about that dish. You can feel it. I can almost feel the temperature in this house getting hotter when I watch these scenes when people start getting themselves all pumped up, right? So then he's not even listening to her. He takes a big bite out of the tomato and spits it out. He's like, what? I did everything I'm supposed to do. And they still fucking taste like shit. So you know what? And then he like tosses it away and throws it, and he just goes Nick Cage crazy, right? He's not listening to his wife, who's also upset and hyping herself up. He's upset because these beautiful, ripe fruits that he just picked all taste rotten to him. Guess what? Many people have reported that when they got back from the dentist and they had nitrous oxide in order to numb them from the pain and so that they couldn't feel and stuff, many people have reported that it altered their taste buds. It made them taste like fruits and meats and other things tasted rotten. Many people have lost weight because of this. They couldn't even eat anything. Sometimes there was no taste whatsoever. Guess what? It's just like in the Pirates of the Caribbean. Remember whenever Barbossa he loves to bite into his apple? But because he's the undead or whatever, he can't taste it. It's the same concept. This guy, there's nothing wrong with his fruit. It's him. Just like he's the only one that can smell that disgusting smell. He's the only one that thinks that all the food tastes rotten. It also could be the electromagnetics zapping the brain like we talked about. Let's see here. What is this? One moment. Oh, I'm going to read this article to you real quick. This is what I was talking about. The patient refers in his letter, was evaluated and treated for distortions of taste and smell that followed the operation that was performed under general anesthesia. She reported all fruits, dairy products, meats, and coffee tasted and smelled spoiled or rotten. And that's, you could look that up on Google. There's many different articles. That just happens to be the one I pulled up. So she's all, just fix the dish, okay? Like, they're not the loving couple that we saw in the beginning. Then it zooms in on his arm. Look at that. That's leprosy. It doesn't say that in the movie, but I mean, that spot on looks like leprosy to me, right? So he's getting leprosy from the gods and whatnot. He's showing his true colors. This guy has a lot of issues on the inside as well. They referred to like his innermost father problems where he didn't feel like he lived up to his father. He's got all kinds of inner demons, you could say. Well, those inner demons come out when you're plasma possessed. Then they show this weird sculpture. Check this thing out, right? To me, that's a Fantazoid, okay? If you don't know what a Fantazoid is, it's otherworldly creatures, not humanoids per se, although the humanoids are also Fantazoids. But mostly they're creatures like animals that fall in from the space above, or the heavens, you could say, right? Heavenly creatures. Anyway, here's their house, now completely engulfed in plasma with a little light pyramid there. I mean, not plasma, engulfed in fog, I'm sorry. So now the house is engulfed in fog. Shows the Wiccan girl trying to protect herself. She knows something's wrong. She knows something's up, but she doesn't know what it is. How can you protect yourself if you don't know what you're up against? I just would like to say that. You can try things. You can attempt things, but it could be to no avail if you don't know what you're dealing with. She doesn't know what she's dealing with. She's made a little circle of candles and stuff, a little protection circle. But then she starts to cut herself. Remember, these people can't feel pain. They can't feel anything because there's probably a nitrous oxide cloud. That's just one possibility, by the way. I put that out there because it's my favorite one. There's many things that can disrupt taste buds or alter your senses and things of that nature. I like the idea of the nitrous oxide clouds because it's also the laughing plague, which I like too. So the mom and her boy run away from the plasma. It's shooting towards them in this scene, right? Coming at them, just like a ghost. Wow. Or a banshee or something. Screaming its way towards them, looking at them in their predator vision in this little, I should call this aura vision. I'm going to call this aura vision. I believe that plasma has aura vision. I just made that up, but I think it can see your aura. So it goes after these two, bzz, shocks the heck out of them, boom. The mom is holding onto her son at this point, and they get hit by the plasma itself, a direct hit from one of the larger beams of plasma. I'll show you what happens here in a minute. So then the girl walks out. She's cut herself all kinds because she's doing this blood magic and thinks that she has power because she can't feel the cuts or whatever. Bad idea. Not working. It's not going to protect her. It's not going to save her. It's not going to help her. What is that? Oh, okay. So this is hard to see, but this right here is the little boy's face, and this right here is the mom's face. The plasma merged the two of them together at the molecular level. They're merged. One body, two people. Right? Now, this is also something that I've picked up on in my plasma research, is that plasma may have the ability to rearrange DNA. It may be able to restructure and reconstitute DNA to try to make it better. That's what it's here to do. The goal is not to come down here and just be something to be scared of, to be, the bad guy in every movie or whatever. The goal is to come down here and fix things, because you and I all know the world's messed up. The world's bad. It's overrun by evil right now. This plasma's doing us a favor. But it also reminds me of The Fly, the Jeff Goldblum movie, The Fly. Whenever he goes into his little pod, it gets zapped by plasma. But there was a fly in his pod too. So the plasma merged the DNA together. It tried to make sense out of it and make it better. All right, so this is Nick Cage. Okay, these are all Nick Cage flipping out. He's just screaming in his car, road rage that his car won't even start, right? Many of you people have seen someone like this, or this might have been you. This has been me a couple times, I'll admit, which causes me to think twice. But he's just flipping out in his car. He gets out of his car. His car won't start. Why? Because something sucked the electricity out of it all night long. That would be the plasma. Now check this out. He's parked right in front of the world tree. This tree right here is not any random regular old tree. Let me zoom in on this. In the movie, this is a still frame, but in the movie, all of these branches are slowly undulating, just kind of moving about up and down, not like a regular branch would in the wind. It looks more like tentacles when it's moving. Why is that in the movie? Why? They don't explain any of this, but you know there's truth behind it. The truth is, this is shooting up from the plasma volcano. This is the world tree, and that trunk of the tree is the plasma beam that shoots up. All of the branches that are undulating off to the side like that, those are little eddies and tide pools of plasma, little turbulences from the main stalk. So he's like, yeah, the car's not happening. Something sucked the charge out of the battery overnight. It's like an electromagnetic field, he says. Oh, psh, boom, hits it right on the head. Home run. Crowd goes wild. I love it when the movies are blunt, direct, and they go, it could be an electromagnetic field. That's exactly what it is. That's what we're talking about, plasma, electromagnetics. Now, the mom and the son are merged together. This is where it gets deeply symbolic, okay? Can plasma merge things? I believe it can. Will it always merge everything? I very much doubt it, right? But given the right circumstances and the right situation, it probably has the potential to do that. Now, it happens to also, in merging them, turn them into a sort of Fantazoid, otherworldly creature-looking thing, which I'll show you here in a bit. But one of the first things that you know that they have been turned into a Fantazoid, I like to say they caught the T-virus. Okay, I'll have to explain that one another time. But essentially, the sunlight is hitting their flesh, and their flesh starts to burn. Fantazoids cannot deal with direct sunlight, which is why they hide, which is why they're hidden out in lakes and caves and stuff like that. Like they weren't just hiding from humans to begin with. They were hiding from the sun itself, which is why the monsters come out at night. They are allergic to the sunlight. It will burn them. They're not from this world. They're not used to that harsh light up above like we are a little bit. I'm still not really used to it. But yeah, they'll hide. That's when the monsters come out. Now, this is the wife. So this is kind of gruesome, but I want to show you this because of the color of her skin. When I talk about the Fantazoids being white, this is more closer to the type of white that I'm talking about. Not Caucasian, although typically they're played by Caucasians. It's easier that way. But their skin is more ivory, palish, grayish, whitish, shiny, kind of slippery looking. I don't know. That's what they look like. This right here is hard to see, but this is all of those llamas earlier that have been merged by the plasma, creating some sort of new, what do you call, like a half animal, half human hybrid? I forgot. It starts with C-H-I. Chimera. So this would be like a chimera or something in the old world, right? Stuff like this is possible. Will it live for a long time? Probably for as long as there is an influx of plasma, and then it will probably die, right? There's a time of no death. So if monsters are created, those monsters in turn won't be able to die either, right? Unless it's an extreme death, I would say. Usually a headshot. All right, so there's the llamas. There's Nick Cage going nuts. Here's the guy, the blue guy with his blue Jeep. I actually used to have a car that looked just like that, and I called it Papa Smurf. Oh, his name is Ward, which literally means to protect. I don't know if I told you guys that. So they call him over. They're like, bro, come check this out. He's like, what happened to them? They look burned. And then this is a whole different group of just random animals that were all merged together by the plasma. The guys are like, we got a couple of birds. There's a rabbit. There's even a cat in there somewhere, right? And they're all melded together. And he says it looks like radiation burns. Well, guess what? That plasma from space is bringing along with it radiation, gamma rays, X-rays, all kinds of stuff, right? This is her horse. As you can see, it's plasma possessed. The eyes light up. When her eyes light up, the horse's eyes. All of a sudden, it starts to act up, and she's like, whoa, steady, steady. This is showing you plasma possession at its finest, and it's easy to happen to animals. So they say, Comet, what's wrong with the horse? And she's like, nothing's wrong with the horse, even though clearly something's wrong with the horse. Here's the well. Now, the boy tries to go down into the well because he thinks he hears his dog down there. Remember, this is vibration we're dealing with, right? And it can mimic other vibrations or sounds. So it's mimicking the sound of the dog that it remembers. I don't know if it's to trap the boy or not. I'm not going to say that it's for a bad purpose. Maybe it's just, that's what it does. Just like a bird would do it or whatever. So the boy goes down there. The well fills up with plasma. Imagine that, right? The girl's looking down. She's like, no, don't go down there. The plasma comes up. Boom, reaches up with little plasma tentacles, grabs the boy and pulls him down. And he falls and falls and falls. You hear him like, ah. Like he disappears into a bottomless pit. As the plasma reaches up to get him, he actually puts on some special glasses that look like they're from the steampunk era. This is done purposefully. They show these glasses just briefly in the beginning of the movie. These are special glasses that people put on to look at extremely bright lights. And he happens to have them and he puts them on. This is one of the reasons I believe why they show these types of goggles associated with the steampunk world as well. Because I think steampunk happens right after the plasma apocalypse. I'd give it 50 years or less and you'll have full-on steampunk world. Now the dad's flipping out and he's like, if we could all just pull together, and he's flipping out, losing control of himself. He drags his daughter upstairs. He went from a loving father to somebody who lost his ever-loving mind. The daughter's like, you're hurting me, Dad, right? And he's like, no, I'm not a monster. He's trying to snap out of it, but he can't. He's trying to pull himself out of his possession, but he can't. He opens up the attic door and throws her in there with the Fantazoid mom as food so the mom can eat the daughter. This dude lost his mind. He says, now go feed your mother. Boom, throws her in there. Here's the blue guy again with blue light all over the place. These are actually just the lights from the police car, but look how many times they associate him with this baby blue color. Interesting, right? So they're walking about trying to figure out what's going on. You can't see this. This is too dark for you to see, but this is a big old Fantazoid, which is what the mom used to be. She's now like a 6-legged Fantazoid creature about to eat the other one, right? The dad's going nuts. He's psycho. He's crazy. They walk outside. The plasma comes up out of the well, okay? That comes up out of the well. They show it in all of its glory, snaking about and streaming through the air. The cop gets on the phone. He's like, 1 Charlie 7, we've got a code 33. Interesting, code 33, right next to the area for the plasma volcano, which is said to be 33 miles in circumference. And then the blue light all the way around the cop during the code 33. I believe 33 is a strong possibility for a reference to the plasma volcano or the North Pole. Could also be the 33rd degree parallel. I know there's a lot of support for that too, but I like my theory as well. He says, I'm going to come back for you. The guy in blue, who represents the blue gods, is making a promise that he'll come back to save somebody. He'll come back to help, right? Here's why. The gods always leave. They have the technology. They're like, we're out. All you guys down there see NASA, Elon Musk, all these people are building rockets to escape. Not to go explore and come back and go explore and come back and so. No. They're waiting for the right time so they can escape this world. And then before they go, they usually make a promise like, hey, we're all going to embark on an epic journey. So long, suckers. We'll see you next time. We will be back. Unfortunately, most of you will be dead by then because we will gain our immortality, etc. You know what I mean? They all leave this world. The blue gods leave. I'll be back, right? All right, so they're looking for him. Even this dude's flashlight is blue. Crazy. Now they get into that guy's house, Chimera's house. Remember from earlier? He got zapped by the plasma. He's basically petrified or dead or something, right? And you can see it glowing in his skin. And he says, it's just a color. There's a recording that he made. He's like, it's just a color, but it burns. It sucks and it burns. It sucks and it burns? It sucks because it sucks people up into the sky, which is Kronos, the fatherly god that eats his children, sucks them all up into his mouth, and then swallows a rock, because rocks are actually made up there in the sky. And when he swallows the rock, everything floats back down. Gravity's restored, and Kronos pukes out his kids. And that applies to various stories across cultures and time. So it sucks and it burns. This guy's super plasma possessed, right? Kind of looks like some X-Men stuff. Now, the cop and the blue guy, which also reminds me of, like, don't have a good day. Have a great day. Remember that? The guy, or a guy from the other movie we broke down. Anyways, this tree. The tree literally grabs the cop in some vines and sucks him up and pulls him up here. This blue thing right here is the cop. He got pulled up by the tree and killed by the tree. Not only can humans become plasma possessed, not only can animals and possibly insects become plasma possessed, but plants also can become plasma possessed. Keep in mind that with an influx of life means rapid growth, right? I believe many of the plants in our world will not only grow to gigantic proportions, but they'll move about in a way that we noticed, that we never noticed before. And that means that they'll be able, if they're big enough, to wrap around us like vines do, grab us, interact with us, talk to us. Does it mean they all want to kill us? No, but for the most part, I'd be careful. And I did a whole video about the plants on a plants versus zombies video that I did in my Plasma Apocalypse one. She's super plasma possessed. Look at the eyes. Light up the eyes, boys. Light up the eyes. So her eyes are all lit up. That means that she is full of spirit, full of energy. She's possessed. This guy falls on the ground and the grass literally reaches up and tries to wrap around his fingers. That's how much life there is flowing through the earth at this point in time, or energy, right? All right, so her third eye is open. Her other two eyes are closed. She's getting some divine insight, I guess you could say, which is, achievable, but you got to be careful because upon doing so, you can also die, which she does. She gets ripped up into a million pieces. Plasma shoots up out of the plasma volcano. I mean, the well behind her, whatever you want to call it. A hole in the sky opens up and the plasma shoots up to the sky. I don't know what else. That's pretty self-evident. Now, the dad is full on a leper at this point, lost his mind, is seeing things, has a terrible sense of smell. Everything tastes bad. This dude has either been shocked, right? Or like a multitude of things are happening wrong with him. He's having a super bad day. Now, the guy in blue makes it, right? Right at the end when it's the height of everything, it's the worst. He goes down into the basement where plasma can't get in because there's no open windows or anything. Plasma can't go through a physical object. So most basements are a good bet, right? Not saying they're super safe because there's earthquakes and other things that are dangerous too. But as far as keeping the plasma out, go in your room, lock the door, shut the windows, etc. Keep physical barriers up. This guy does that. He goes down to the basement and he covers his ears. Hear no evil, just like we mentioned towards the beginning, right? Because he does this, he's unaffected. Everyone else is super affected. They're all of their senses are distorted and messed up. He survives. He covers his ears and he wakes up right next to this petrified hand or skeleton of Nicolas Cage. He's dead. Nicolas Cage is fried. He's toast. And everything is white now. Do you notice that? Everything is white, including this guy, the blue guy that survived everything. Why is it all white? Because it represents starting over, one, and it represents this guy who is the blue being, or well, it could be blue being, but also blue being, blue god, right? The blue gods come down from above, which above is white. Above is space. Beyond the dome of this world and beyond the darkness is illumination. It's light all over the place, just like a lot of us thought. We all knew when we were kids, why isn't space all lit up and beautiful? Because it's full of stars. I know you've all asked that question. I have. Come on. At least once, right? So it's showing you symbolically all of that white stuff means that this guy is one of the people from space who come back down and they're survivors and they rebuild everything and they, set up a new world. Now, the one thing he's picking up right now happens to be a compass, right? The compass is one of the first things that's shown in this movie, and the compass is one of the last things that's shown in this movie too. He finds the compass and he survives. I think that this is a nod to using the compass to get to the North Pole, which is generally considered to be, by myself, a safe area. Or safer area, I should say, from the plasma apocalypse. Now, here you can't see it very well, but at the bottom of that picture is a dam, and they're going to flood the entire valley where all of this happened. This story has gone on throughout the movie. This guy actually came to just check on everyone before they flooded. Now, he says there are only a few of us that remember the strange days now. Let me time out real quick. He says there's only a few of us. He's including us. He's including us in this statement. There's only a few of us that remember the strange days. So let me ask you, do you remember the strange days? Are you one of those people that has flashes and rememories and reminiscent pictures in your mind or feelings or smells or whatever of something totally different? Not this life. Don't you just feel like you're just on the edge of your seat, like it's on the tip of your tongue, like you're just about to figure out the meaning behind all this craziness? There's only a few of us that remember the strange days. So guess what? We need more people to remember the strange days. That's why we do this. That's why we talk about it, right? That's why we talk about the truth in the movies and in fiction and sci-fi and fantasy, because these come from the few. These memories come from the few of us that remember and hold on to the old ways and the old memories of the way the world once was. And we share that. And it comes out to those who dismiss it. It comes out to those who ignore it. And to those who laugh at us as being pure amusement, fanciful, lies, fictitious, and so on and so forth. But to those who have an ear to hear, for those of us who are paying attention and desire something more and are trying to get to know ourselves and the world around us a bit better, we remember. He says, what touched this place cannot be quantified or understood by human science. The movie's telling you right now, academia, hey, you're never going to figure this out. Okay? You went down the wrong path and it led you down another wrong path and down another wrong path. Or perhaps it's just perspective is slightly skewed and everyone has a piece of the puzzle, including academia. But that doesn't mean that they hold the spade, so to speak. Opens up the compass, sets himself in a new direction, and he says it was just a color out of space. A messenger from realms whose existence stuns the brain. The color out of space. What'd you guys think? Did you have a good time? Was it a fun presentation? I hope. That was it. That was The Color Out of Space. Nick Cage. Classic Nick Cage. What? You want to get crazy? I don't know how to do Nick Cage. I can't do it. I just know he just goes from 0 to nuts in 2.7 seconds. All right. Well, hey, everybody, I love you. I'm not going to hang out in the chat for today. I'm going to save that for our campfire episode. I hope that you had a good time. We've got some brand new Halloween-themed credits coming up right now. So we're going to roll those. Until next time, I'm JayDreamerZ saying good vibes and goodbye.